Hey everybody, DJ J. Brandon here with Pioneer DJ, and we're here at the NAMM Believe in Music Week 2021 show with the Squid. It's part of our TORAIZ line. This is a multi-track sequencer that you can hook up multiple MIDI devices to and use as the hub to control all of them. We also have the SP16 and the AS1, all of which our product specialist Devon is going to be demonstrating for you in just a moment. So please stay tuned and learn all you can. Devon, take it away.
Hey, Devon here with TORAIZ. Thanks for hanging out. It's good to see you again. Today, I'm building a dance song from scratch using the TORAIZ ecosystem of hardware. I've got 3 different devices, and I'll show you how each of them contributes to producing a song from scratch. I'm working in what I call a hybrid production environment. What I mean by that is, I've got some devices that are hardware. Those are creating certain elements of my song, and at the same time, I'm generating certain sounds of my song in software, in VST instrument. The way I can actually work with hardware and software at the same time in a seamless way is facilitated by the TORAIZ Squid, which is a multi-track sequencer that can connect to hardware and software and control them both at the same time. So what are the elements of my song? I've got 3. I've got the drums, and then I'm going to add some chords, and then I'm going to add a bass line. So how am I getting those sounds? The drums are going to come from the TORAIZ SP16 professional sampler. This is a digital device. It's super high quality. It comes preloaded with tons of great samples, bass, chords, effects, all different types of building blocks that are professionally produced for you to use and compose your song. You can work with tiny little samples like individual drums and program everything from scratch, or you can start with loops and start stacking loops and program that way. It's up to you how detailed you want to get. Now, the chords, those are going to come from Ableton Live. I have a VST plugin that's like a little vibraphone sound, and I'm going to be triggering those chords from Ableton Live. And finally, the bass line, that's going to be generated by the TORAIZ AS1 analog synthesizer. Now, this synthesizer was developed in conjunction with Dave Smith Instruments. They're experts at filters, they're experts at oscillators, they're experts at all these aspects of an analog signal path. So this instrument really excels and shines at beefy, juicy, real analog sounds that you're not going to get from software. So each device is in charge of making a particular aspect of my song. Now, let's talk about signal path. So the SP16 has a stereo output, in this case, and it's going into a channel on my DJ mixer. This is the Pioneer DJ MV10. And the chords are coming from the computer. Now, how am I getting that sound into my mixer? Well, DJM-V10 actually has 2 discrete USB connections, and I've got a single USB cable coming from my laptop going right into DJM-V10, and I'm routing that right into a channel here. So my drums are on channel 5, my chords are on channel 6, and finally my bass line is being generated by the AS1. There's a stereo output there, and that's going into channel 4 on my DJ mixer. So 3 channels, and hardware and software. Now, I also need to be able to record everything that's going on in the mixer. I need to be able to record that into my recording software, into Ableton Live. How am I doing that? Well, the cool thing about DJM-V10's USB connection is that it can carry audio from your computer, but it can also carry audio back to your computer. Every single one of my 6 channels has its own data stream over a single USB cable. So I'm actually going to multi-track these different devices all at the same time when I finally hit record. The SP16 has a built-in sequencer, so it is a standalone production environment. And the AS1 analog synthesizer also has a built-in sequencer. So you can create sequences right there on the device without anything else. However, the TORAIZ Squid is a very special standalone sequencer. It doesn't make any sounds by itself. It's actually going to be sequencing the drums and sequencing the bass line and sequencing the chords all from a single point of focus. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to do is I just want to get a little click, just a little hi-hat to establish the rhythm of the song. So you'll notice I'm tapping out drums right here on the Squid. The way that works is I've got a MIDI cable connected from Squid to the SP16, and I'm actually triggering the drums that I loaded up. These are just stock drums. They come preloaded from the factory. They're excellent quality. They're professionally produced. They're perfect building blocks for you to start composing dance tracks. All right, there's my hi-hat. Let's just start tapping something out. So I played that in a little bit sloppy, but I can correct that easily by going to my trigger page where I graphically see the notes that I just laid out. That one's a little off. So I'll just copy that note and paste it back to the position it should be in. Let's listen to that. Great. I'm going to take those and I'm going to copy those out to the next position, and we'll get some eighth notes. All right, not exactly groovy, so I'm going to take the first of those on the downbeat and I'm going to lower the velocity on those, and that's going to make them trigger at a lower volume. So I just hold the 4 squares down and I grab the knob that says velocity and I turn it and I look at the screen and I can see the velocity lowering down to a lower value. Okay. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to copy that into a 4-bar pattern. So I hold down Shift, hit the right button, and that will hit the right direction arrow, I should say, and that will copy out and give me 4 bars. So now I have 3 blank bars. The sequence is still playing. So I'm going to take page 1 here, also known as bar 1, and I'm going to copy it out and paste it out. Okay, now I have 4 bars. So now what I want to do to start to create a little bit of a groove is add a couple other drum elements. So let's go back to the mode where I can trigger the sounds. I like this little open hi-hat, so I'm going to add some on top of what I just recorded. Okay, so this is a straight beat, i.e. there's no shuffle or swing. There's a dedicated swing knob right on the front panel of Squid, and I can go ahead and dial in the amount of swing that I want. I personally like about 60% swing. Okay, so now we have just a basic foundation of our track. So now I've got that little hi-hat groove laid down. The next thing I'm going to do is add some chords, and then I'll go back and add more drums afterwards. Let me show you how I'm going to add some chords to my song. So Squid has 16 tracks, 16 layers that I can start adding instruments to. So by holding down the track button and selecting a blank track, I now have a new area to work in, and I'm going to tell Squid to output on USB channel 1. So that means anything I do here, that's now triggering my software instrument. So I'm not a super musical guy, so I don't want to hand play a little melody or some chords in here using these pads. So I'm going to use a feature that is pretty awesome inside Squid, and that's the chord mode. So if I hold down Shift and hit chord, now I have an entire page of really jazzy, interesting chords that are all sort of thematically connected, and I can bounce between them. And actually, there's several pages of these chords that come preloaded from the factory. So I'm going to start my sequencer, and I'm going to record a little groove with some chords. Here we go. Let's listen. All right, that sounds pretty good. I'm going to dial in a little bit of swing on that track as well. All right, you get the idea. Now it's time to add a kick and a snare. So I'm going to go back to the first track, which contained my drums, find my kick and snare, and we'll start laying them down. Let's hear how that sounded. Okay, I had a little bit of a mess up there, so all I have to do is hit Shift Undo, and I can start over and try again. And the cool thing about Squid, this is quite rare in standalone hardware. There's multiple levels of undo. Not a lot of hardware sequencers do that. It's very convenient. All I need to do is back up just one level to the last step that I left off at, and I'm going to lay down the drums again. All right, I like it. Let's add a couple more elements. Let's see what kind of sounds we also have here. These are all just things that came with the drum kit that I can throw into my track, but I'm going to be judicious about it. I'm going to throw in a clap at the end there. Now there's a chord there that's kind of feeling a little bit off. I don't exactly like where that is. And the nice thing about Squid is that I can graphically see that and I can edit that note. So I'm going to select the track with the chords. I'm going to go to the trigger page and I'm going to select, I think that's on bar 4. Let's take a look and a listen. It's that one. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that note just 1/16 note back. Easy peasy. All right, fixed it. Let's throw in one more little effect in the drums. Let's add a little bit more spices. I'm going to add that little voice. Okay, now that's a little bit loud. So what I can do right here on the SP16 is just touch the screen and touch the little mixing icon. And now I have an internal mixing environment and I can select that track, just lower the volume. So it's just a little more subtle in the mix. A little less than that. Okay, we're really starting to get something going, but my drums feel still a little bit sparse. So what I want to do is I want to add a pre-recorded drum loop that has a lot of information in it, and I want to lay that down underneath everything. So the great thing about SP16 is that it comes from the factory preloaded with tons of professionally produced drum loops across a huge number of genres. So I'm going to go ahead and select an empty track here. I've got 16 tracks of audio that I can work with, stereo audio. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit Browse, and I'm going to use the touch screen to enter into the browse mode and try and find an audio loop. Okay, that's the one I want. So I just tap the button and there it is. The problem is that audio loop is a little bit slow. It's actually in a completely different BPM than my project that I'm working on right now. The cool thing about SP16 is that right here from the front panel with a single knob turn where it says time stretch, I just nudge that once and now it automatically time stretches that to my project BPM. Listen, perfectly in time. So I'm going to lay that down right here in my sequence. That's not the one. Wrong button. There it is. If I make a mistake, I just hit undo. All right, let's see how that sounded. Perfectly in time. That drum loop is a little bit loud though. So again, I'm going to go back into the mix down environment, select that track. Just nudge it down a little bit in the mix. So the last thing I'm going to add is my bass line, and that's going to come from AS1 analog synthesizer. So on Squid, I go ahead and select another empty track. I've got 16 total to work with, and I've already set Squid up just by turning the main dial here. I've already set it up to trigger notes using the second of its 2 MIDI outputs, and that MIDI is connected to the AS1. So tapping here, that triggers the synthesizer. Now, right now we're in the default, which is a C major scale, or a C chromatic actually. Every note is represented. So I need to constrain that to the scale that I'm working in this song. So the way I'm going to easily do that is I'm going to hit the note. Actually, I'm going to go up an octave. And I'm going to listen. Nope, needs to go up a little bit. There it is. So it's in the key of E. But it's not just E chromatic, where every note is available. I need to constrain that to a scale. Now Squid comes preloaded with a bunch of usable scales. Actually, there's a ton of them. You've got major pentatonic, minor pentatonic. You've got all your modes, Mixolydian if you're into that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the scale key, which is right here on the front panel, and I'm going to choose minor pentatonic. And I can already see right here on the grid that it's limited the number of notes to just that scale. Okay. All right, that's cool. That's one way of doing it, where I'm actually tapping things out, but Squid has more tricks up its sleeve. The way I'm going to create a bass line now is I'm going to use some of the features that are available in Squid. I'm actually going to lay down 16 notes all at once. Then I'm going to dial in the swing amount so that it has the same swing amount as every other track. Now it's got that shuffle. I'm going to dial back the decay on the sound by using the decay knob. Making it a little shorter, a little choppier. And finally, I'm going to use this great feature called pitch randomization. What this does is it generates a completely random sequence in the scale that I've selected. So I've selected the scale of E minor pentatonic, and as soon as I hit shift pitch, it's going to generate a totally random groove, but in that scale. Listen. That works. And I can do another one. I can just keep listening, finding something that I like. That one I really like, but it's still a little bit busy. So all I have to do is just delete some of the notes, leave a few spaces in there. Let's see how this sounds. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. So I'm going to take that entire sequence and I'm going to shift it down an entire octave so that we're in the bass register. So I hold down shift, I grab the pitch knob, one click. Turn the cutoff down on that sound. All right, so that's the foundation for our song. Now what I can do is I can use some of the built-in features of Squid to interact with the sequence that I already created. There's a lot of improvisational and interactive functions. Check it out. I'm gonna turn down everything but the drums. Let's listen to those for a second. Okay, now I can start using some of the front panel controls to do things like changing the direction of playback, to change the style of playback from linear to like a snake mode or a spiral mode. And those are instantly going to give me some fresh creative grooves. Right? And then there's another improvisational feature called rhythmic control, which acts like a looper, and I can, in real time, grab various sections and loop them. And once you start combining all those, you can really get some variations easily and in a surprising way. Okay, so I like some of the things that I did there. How am I going to get those into my song? That was just a real-time jam. So Squid has one of the coolest features. It's called time warp. What that's doing is that's actually listening to all the front panel jamming that I'm doing, and it's recording it into a buffer, and I can go back and listen to what I did. So if I enter time warp mode, I can listen backwards in time to some of the jams that I just did. Okay, that one was a little sloppy. Okay, that one's going to work perfectly as a fill. So what I can do while I'm here in time warp mode is I can go ahead and take that and save it as a brand new pattern. And I have tons of pattern spaces to work with. And now let's use that in my song. Now I'm going to jump over. So it's available for me to use as a fill. So that's some of the real-time manipulation that I can do with the drum sounds. What about something like the bass line? I'm going to go ahead and select my bass line track. And you can see right here that it's 1 bar of music. It's 16 steps. There's a lot of creative things I can do just with the amount of steps, for example, in the sequence. Transpose in real time. Change the number of active steps. Now it's only 8 steps. Now it's 12. Back to 16. And if I want, I can just hit Shift and Pitch and completely create a new random groove. Drop that down an octave. All right, so we're just scratching the surface on some of the real-time interaction you can do with the Squid sequencer. Now I've shifted some things around and I've got rid of my laptop and replaced it with a modular synthesizer because I want to show you how the TORAIZ ecosystem can also allow me to build a track from scratch and jam out in a live performance context. Let's get into it. So the song that I'm going to make today has 4 elements. We're going to have our drums, we're going to have a chord that provides some ambient texture, we're going to have a bass line, and then we're going to have some tweaky noises from my modular synthesizer. So the drums are going to come from SP16 Professional Sampler. I've loaded up a couple drum loops from the stock sounds that are professionally produced and come with the unit from the factory. Notice these are all in different BPM. That's 124, 126, that's in 110, but the song that I'm making is in 129 BPM. So this is a real simple fix with a single knob turn. It's called time stretch. I just turn it. Now all of my loops are all in the same BPM. So now I can start sequencing them. I'm going to sequence them with the Squid over here because this is a sophisticated hardware sequencer that can drive all of my different sound makers from one singular location. All right, let's get to laying down some of these loops. All right, there's the shaker. What's next? I've got that little percussion loop. Let's lay that down. There we go. And finally, I have a bit more of my breakbeat loop loaded up on pad 4. Let's lay that down. All right, everything's locked in. So now I've got a foundation of drum loops. Now I want to add my main kick and my main snare on top of everything. So I like that, but I need to add some more oomph. I've got my kick and my snare, both loaded from the factory sounds, and I'm going to sequence them here on the Squid. Right? And I add a hi-hat as well, which I have here on pad 7. That hi-hat is a little loud in the mix, so I'm just going to dial it back a little bit. How's that? Still a little hot. There we go. All right, now I'm going to add that textural chord that I was telling you about. Again, this is one of the many preset audio loops that comes packaged with the SP16. I'm going to go ahead and select an empty track. Use the touch screen to go to Browse. And there it is. That's the one I want. And what's cool about all of these loops is that they're tagged with the key. So this is in the key of G. And again, I'm going to sequence that from the Squid. There it is. All I had to do was just tap it while recording, and now it's part of my sequence. Good. Now we can add a bass line. So again, the bass line is going to come from our AS1 true analog synthesizer. This is a collaboration with Dave Smith Instruments, so we've got real analog oscillators and real analog filters. It sounds super beefy, definitely a sound you're not going to get from a plug-in instrument on a laptop or a desktop computer. All right, so I'm triggering the AS1 using the pads on the Squid. And notice these are already in scale because right here on the front panel, I can dial in what key and what scale I want to work in. So I dialed in G, and then I chose the scale as minor pentatonic. It just locks right in. Let's make it a 2-bar pattern so I can have some variation. Great. I'm going to dial in a little bit of shuffle, aka swing. Awesome. Really got something going now. So the last thing I'm going to add on to sprinkle over the top is a bit more of a gritty industrial sound coming from my modular synthesizers here. Now, the cool thing about Squid is that it can control so many different types of music making devices and sound generators. There's 2 discrete MIDI outputs in the back. That's how I'm driving the 2 TORAIZ products. But it also has CV and gate on the back panel as well, so I can drive both vintage and modern modular synthesizers. So if I go ahead and select an empty track, so now I'm actually triggering my modular synth right here from the same sequencing environment. So let me add a little groove. Let's undo that and make it a 2-bar pattern. Nice. Now let's add one more layer on top because I've got several synthesizers packed into here. Again, for this track, aka layer of my song, I've told Squid to constrain the notes to the key of G minor and lock it even further into the pentatonic scale so I don't make any musical mistakes. So the way I'm going to create a sequence now is a little bit unique. I'm not going to hand tap it in. I'm actually going to lay down a sequence of random notes. And by holding down Shift and hitting the pitch button, I can generate over and over new random sequences and find something that I like. Now, this is a little bit busy, so one of the cool things I can do on a track-by-track basis is I can actually constrain the length of the loop and make it even shorter than the other tracks, and what you get is you get some polymeter. Listen to this. I can actually deactivate steps, and now one of my sounds is looping at a faster rate than everything else. Listen to this. So that allows me to get a sequence going, to tweak the synth, and then I can go back and I can generate new patterns. There's all sorts of fun improvisational things I can do. Additionally, one of the fun things I can do in a live performance context is interact in real time with some of the drums that I already sequenced here. The cool thing about Squid is that I have a lot of improvisational controls right here on the front panel, like running direction and rhythmic control. These allow me to change things like the playback direction of the drums, and even to grab little loops and make little stutters and variations. Have a listen. So I've shown you how I've built a song from scratch and added some improvisational elements using the 3 items from the Toraiiz ecosystem: the Squid, the SP16, and the AS1. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you soon.
Devon, that was great. Thank you so much. Learned a lot about the production aspects. If you need more information, you know where to check everything out online at pioneerdj.com or our social media handles. We have more here at the NAMM Believe in Music Week 2021 show for you. And coming up, we have DJ Happa doing our DJ class. I'm going to watch it because I need to learn more too. So please stay tuned.